An army fell, not from bullets or bombs, but from tiny killers with a sting. Fragile, almost invisible mosquitoes brought one of history's boldest ambitions to its knees. The French came to Panama with ships, soldiers, and money, yet none of it mattered. By the time the swarms were done, thousands were dead and an empire was left humiliated. So, how can something so small defeat something so powerful? And here's the scary part. It could happen again. In the late 1800s, the French were unstoppable when it came to engineering. They had already stunned the world with the Suez Canal, slicing a path through the desert and connecting two major seas. After that success, they set their sights on Central America. The plan was simple on paper: build a canal through Panama and you'd create the fastest trade route in the world. Ships would no longer have to sail all the way around South America. This was supposed to be the crown jewel of French engineering. The man leading this mission was Ferdinand de Lesseps, the same hero who built the Suez Canal. People saw him as unstoppable. If anyone could bend nature to his will, it was him. But Panama was not Egypt. The jungle was thick, wet, and alive with dangers that nobody understood. Mosquitoes were everywhere. They bred in puddles, barrels, and even footprints filled with rainwater. To the French, they were just annoying insects. However, nobody realized that these little creatures were carrying two invisible killers: malaria and yellow fever. The French expedition arrived in 1881. Thousands of workers came from France, the Caribbean, and beyond. Spirits were high. The newspapers back in Paris were already celebrating the next great triumph. But then, the sickness began to spread like wildfire. At first, it seemed like simple fatigue from the brutal heat and endless work. But soon, men were collapsing mid-task, trembling with violent chills that left them drenched in sweat. Some vomited blood, others shook so hard they couldn't stand, and their strength drained away as if something invisible was consuming them from the inside out. The fevers were relentless. Skin turned a sickly shade, eyes darkened, and within days, once healthy workers were gone. The entire work camps were gripped with fear. It wasn't the terrain or the machinery that was killing them. It was the silent, airborne threat riding on the wings of mosquitoes. Every bite was like rolling the dice with death. No weapon, no army could stop it. The French came prepared for war against nature's obstacles, but they were completely unprepared for this. Nobody knew the cause. At the time, most doctors believed in bad air or miasma. They thought that rotting plants or swamp fumes were to blame. So instead of killing mosquitoes, they burned incense, spread lime, and tried to air out hospitals. It did nothing. The hospital camps became scenes of horror. Patients screamed in pain. Entire wards were filled with men trembling, unable to breathe. Bodies were stacked in makeshift morgues because there weren't enough graves. Doctors tried everything they could think of, but medicine in the 1880s was like shooting in the dark. They handed out mercury pills, believing the poison would somehow purge the sickness. They drained blood from fevered men, convinced that bad blood was the root of disease. Buckets of ice water were poured over burning fevers, while others were forced to swallow alcohol in hopes it would burn the illness away. Some were even given doses of quinine so strong that the cure felt as brutal as the disease itself. It wasn't just disease killing the workers, it was ignorance dressed up as medicine. Nobody yet understood that the real enemy was a tiny insect carrying death in its bite. The French had spent millions shipping heavy machinery, building rail lines, and carving into the jungle, but all of that effort was meaningless. The true battlefield wasn't the sweltering Panamanian jungle or the treacherous mud. It was inside the blood of the workers, where the mosquitoes were winning with every sting. By 1884, the death rates were nothing short of catastrophic. Some days, dozens of workers died before midday. Graves had to be dug in a hurry, and cemeteries began to fill faster than anyone could have imagined. The complete teams of laborers were wiped out within weeks of arriving. New ships brought reinforcements, but many of these men barely survived long enough to finish a single shift. The conditions were worse than anything the French engineers had imagined. The heat was suffocating. The mud swallowed tools and machinery, and the jungle felt alive and hostile with biting insects, venomous snakes, and a constant hum of wings. Mosquitoes swarmed so thickly that workers wrapped themselves head to toe in heavy blankets, even with the heat close to 30 degrees Celsius. They sweated, tossed, and gasped for air inside their makeshift cocoons. But fear of a bite was worse than the heat. Each sting felt like a countdown to sickness, a reminder that death could strike days later without warning. No matter what they did, the sickness spread. Engineer, soldier, or laborer, the mosquitoes didn't care. By 1889, after spending millions of francs and losing over 20,000 lives, the French effort collapsed. The project was abandoned. De Lesseps, the great hero of Suez, left in disgrace. The French had been defeated, not by an enemy army, but by mosquitoes. It sounds almost impossible. A superpower taken down by an insect you can kill with 2 fingers. But this wasn't the first time mosquitoes decided the fate of a war, and it wouldn't be the last. History is filled with examples of mosquitoes killing more soldiers than bullets. During the Vietnam War, US troops were constantly battling malaria. In 1965 alone, over 40,000 American soldiers were infected. Some military reports even show that the disease caused more troop casualties than enemy fire during certain months. In World War II, entire campaigns in the Pacific were slowed down because of malaria outbreaks. Soldiers stationed in the jungles of New Guinea or Burma were more likely to get sick from a mosquito bite than from enemy gunfire. If you go back even further, you'll find the same story. Roman legions marching into swampy territories were decimated by fevers they couldn't explain. Alexander the Great's army, too, may have been crippled by mosquito-borne diseases during his campaigns. Mosquitoes have killed more humans in history than any weapon ever invented. After the French failure, the dream of a canal through Panama wasn't dead. It just needed someone who could face the real enemy. When the United States took over the project in 1904, they brought in a man named Dr. William Gorgas. He had already fought mosquitoes in Cuba and knew exactly what they were capable of. Could one man really take on the invisible enemy that brought the French to their knees? Here's where things get interesting. Well, Gorgas believed that if you controlled mosquitoes, you controlled the disease. His strategy was as simple as it was brutal. Destroy every breeding ground. Teams drained puddles, filled swamps, and treated every water container with oil to suffocate larvae. They fumigated houses, set up mosquito nets, and even built new water systems to prevent stagnant pools. Within a couple of years, yellow fever disappeared. Malaria cases dropped. Suddenly, the project that had once seemed cursed was moving forward. By 1914, the Panama Canal opened. The difference wasn't just better machines, it was the war against mosquitoes. This time, humans won. Even today, mosquitoes remain a serious threat. Modern armies carry mosquito nets, repellents, and anti-malarial drugs, but outbreaks still happen. Mosquitoes kill over 1 million people every single year. They carry diseases like malaria, dengue, Zika, and yellow fever. Think about that for a moment. In a world full of high-tech weapons, satellites, and drones, the deadliest creature is still a tiny insect. What if future wars aren't fought with missiles but with mosquitoes? Well, scientists have already warned that mosquitoes could be used as biological weapons engineered to carry deadly diseases and unleashed on enemy populations. It might sound unbelievable, but this is nothing new. Nature has been doing it for thousands of years. The French believed that technology alone would win. They thought machines could defeat the jungle, but they underestimated the smallest enemy on the battlefield. The Panama disaster is a reminder that nature doesn't care about empires. Mosquitoes don't care about borders or flags. They just bite, breed, and kill. So what do you think? If you were leading that French expedition, could you have figured out how to stop the mosquitoes, or would you have fallen like everyone else? Comment your thoughts below. If you made it this far, congratulations. You survived this story without a single mosquito bite. You've earned a promotion to General of the Anti-Mosquito Brigade. Hit that like button harder than a mosquito smacking into a bug zapper. And if you're new here, subscribe before the mosquitoes find you. While you're at it, check out our video, The Secret Nazi Base Discovered in the Arctic. It's another insane story about how nature, in the most unexpected places, played a role in shaping history, just like mosquitoes did in Panama